Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to make your mix loud in just 3 steps. Okay, so I have a finished mix pulled up here, and the main component to this, which is going to be step 3, is this limiter that we're going to talk about. That's how we're going to get our mix nice and loud up to commercial volume, so you're not always pulling that up in the car or pulling it up on your phone wherever you're listening to it, okay? But the first step we're going to start with, which might seem a little unconventional, are our buses, okay? So if you notice, all of our instruments here are grouped and sent to buses, okay? So all of our loop tracks here are sent to a loop bus, drums and percussion are sent to a drum bus, bass bus, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, keys, vocals, and background vocals, okay? So the first way that you can handle this and get your mix loud is by controlling your volume on the buses, okay? So notice we have 2 vocals here, 2 lead vocals, but they're both sent to a vocal bus, and that's where we're doing our processing, okay? So we're controlling our volume here via a compressor, okay? Same thing on our background vocal buses, okay? We're controlling our volume coming in with the compressor, okay? That makes sure we are sending a nice even level, a nice even loud level to our mix bus, okay, or our mix A, okay? And you can do that in various ways, okay? So our acoustic guitars sent to an acoustic guitar bus, and we're controlling those there with a compressor, okay? Notice we don't have anything on our electric guitar bus, okay, because we're doing that inside, okay? So we have our lead guitar versus our rhythm guitars, okay? So we're controlling our volume there with a fader for both of our rhythm guitars, okay? Our 2 bass tracks, our DI and our amp, are mixed down together at this bass bus, and we are controlling the volume there with a compressor, okay? Now you could do this in a couple other ways, right? You could send all of your drums to your drum bus and control your volume overall for all of your drums with a bus compressor, but I didn't feel the need for that in this mix, okay? But I still do have control over all of the drums with this fader here for the drums, and the same with the loop bus, okay? So even if you're not doing any compression or any limiting at your group bus, you still have control over the volume before you send it into your mix bus, okay? So that's step 1, is controlling your volume of your instruments or your vocals at a group bus level, okay? Now step 2 is at our mix bus, okay? Now I have a pseudo mix bus here before we're sending to our actual mix bus, okay? Excuse me. And it's called mix A, okay? This is where I'm doing my mix bus processing, okay? Now, the way you can control your volume here and prep it before you crank up your volume and get your mix pretty loud is with a mix bus compressor, okay? So all of the tracks in my mix are feeding to their group buses, whether it be a vocal bus, a drum bus, or a bass bus. The volume is being controlled there. That's our step 1. And then all of those buses are feeding into this mix A, where we are again controlling the volume, compressing it, and then bringing it back up with a mix bus compressor, okay? So we're not doing much here. It's just a little bit of volume control before we hit the master bus, the mix bus, the limiter, okay? So take a listen to this, and you can see what this compressor is doing. So we're just doing 2 3 dB of compression on the entire mix, and then we're adding our makeup gain. We're adding a dB of makeup gain before we send it into our mix bus, and we limit it and bring it up to commercial level to export out, okay? Now another thing on step 2 here in the mix bus processing that you could use and could pay attention to is this tape bus processing here, okay? Because this is adding a little bit of compression, a little bit of saturation, that is bringing our volume down to a more consistent level before we send it into our limiter, okay? So take a listen to this. I'll do a before and after on this tape machine. You can hear what this is doing. So we are getting a little bit of volume and a little bit of weight, as well as some compression out of this tape machine, okay? So it's just another level, albeit a subtle level, of control on the volume before we send it into our limiter, okay? So let's do a quick review here, okay? Step 1, we're controlling the volume of all of our instruments, all of our tracks at group bus levels, okay? Step 2, all of those group buses are feeding into this mix A here, where we're again controlling the volume with a mix bus compressor and a little bit of tape bus, okay? Now, step 3 is our limiter, okay? This is where we're adding our volume to get our mix nice and loud, okay? So before we talk about this, before we break it down, let me play you a before and after on this limiter, okay? So here's our mix beforehand, before we add our volume, and then I'll kick this limiter in, okay? So bear in mind, this is gonna be quite a volume change. So here's before. Here's our regular mix level, okay? This is the volume we would mix in. Here's it. Okay, that's our after. That's after we add our limiter and bring our volume up so we can export this, listen to this via, or be it in the car or on your phone, whatever, okay? So this limiter is set at -1, okay? This is still, I believe, the iTunes standard for mastering is setting your ceiling at -1, okay? So that's, we don't have any intersample peaks or anything when we export this or dither it down to an MP3 or a lower quality WAV file. So we are adding 6 dB of gain, okay? So notice I'll click this limiter off and you can see right here, if I set this to K20, which is the meter I mix at, we should be hovering around this 0, okay? Okay, so we're right in this yellow. So that is the level I mix at. I shoot for that 0 or that yellow area right around that 0. So when I switch to mastering, which is my K14 meter, I can click this limiter in, add 6 dB of gain, and we should be only doing about 3 dB of limiting, okay? So take a listen one more time. We're at our K14 meter. We've added our 6 dB of gain on our limiter. We should again be sitting around 0 or into the yellow. Okay, notice we're sitting at 1 here. We're doing our 1 to 2, about 3, where we at 3.5 dB of compression here, or limiting on our mix bus, okay? So that is it. Those are the 3 steps for getting your mix loud, okay? Now you have to be careful with this because you can very easily crank it too much and squash your mix and get it, you know, too limited sounding, a little bit distorted, okay? So step 1, we're controlling our volume at our group buses, okay? Our background vocals, our drums and bass. We're controlling our volume there before we send it into our mix A or our mix bus, okay? Step 2, we're controlling the volume on our mix bus or this mix A bus, okay? So we're using mix bus compression and a little bit of tape to control our volume and add a little bit of volume there, okay? So we're prepping our mix for the limiter at the mix bus stage, okay? So now that we've got our mix even and loud, this is when we put on our limiter, okay? So we're adding our 6 dB of gain to bring 6 dB of gain to bring it up to commercial level and push it into this 1 dB ceiling. So we get our 3 dB of limiting, not too much, okay? 2-3 dB of limiting will give you a nice even tone while still bringing it up loud to commercial level, okay? So one more time, you can look right here, K14 meter, we're hovering right around 0, pushing into the yellow, okay? This still leaves you room for when you send it to mastering, okay? You don't want to send it with this limiter on, but it still leaves you room to push more volume in on a limiter at the mastering stage, okay? So you can push into that 0 and get your LUFS numbers set correctly, okay? So one more time, take a look and take a listen. We're right at that -1. Doing our 3 dB limit. Okay, and that is it, folks. 3 easy steps to control the volume and crank your mix up and get it loud so you can export it, listen to it in your car, listen to it on your phone without having to crank the volume up, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you need help mixing, head on over to the link in the description, Sumthins Recording, and we will get your mix nice and loud for you, okay? I will see you guys in the next video.